When you're ready to create a cartoon version of yourself, you're going to save your photo, and I recommend saving it on your Google Drive and then opening it or downloading it onto your school computer, and then going into Photoshop, and you're going to go ahead and just click open or file open to open that image. So I'm going to go into open, find the image. This is my selfie. This one was taken a couple years ago, so I look just a little bit different now. But it was just after I had voted. I was wearing my Century High School hoodie, so this is the one I'm going to choose. You'll want to use a selfie generally that is like chest up or waist up. I'm trying to focus more on like the top of yourself rather than full body. If you're doing your full body, that can take a lot longer. So just FYI when you're choosing a selfie. And you want something that shows at least part of your face. If you have something covering part of your face, like a mask or something, that's fine. But we just want to make sure that we can still see like, some features of your face, basically. You just don't want to be like completely hidden from view. And the first thing I'm going to start with is just kind of like the base skin tone. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so we can see that. So the base skin tone just kind of means it's like a middle value for your skin. So if I'm using my eyedropper tool, so right here, if I click around here, you can see in my beautiful enlarged color swatches that it kind of moves around. So you see I have what's called red undertones because it's very, orangey red here, very saturated here. But when I click around, you can kind of see, this is how you can actually find your undertones for your skin tone. It's kind of fun. If you're into makeup, that's kind of a fun thing to look at. So as I drag it around, it kind of varies. I don't want to choose a tone that's like in a shadow. So here it's like a little bit darker. I'm not going to choose a shadow. I want to choose kind of just a middle tone. So I'm thinking like right about there or so is a good place because you'll see that color throughout most of my skin tone. I also don't want to choose like the very lightest part, like the highlights on there either, because that will be too light. So I just want to be kind of in the middle here. So we're just going to choose a middle value. And once that color is selected, it will be in that box. So this is the skin tone color that I have selected. That's kind of my base skin tone based on the photo here. And now I'm going to grab my pen tool. I'm going to make sure it's set to shape. Oftentimes, once you've selected the color, it will just be there, and it even shows like my recently used colors here too. You can also, if you're in the color picker here, when you open the color picker, it does give you the eyedropper automatically. So here is where you can also, click around and drag around, the color picker to get whatever color you want. Click OK. All right, so this is my first color. I'm not doing a stroke. I don't want any outline, so I'm not worried about that. I am going to open up my layers panel though so we can see this because this is my background layer. I'm not actually drawing anything on the background layer. This is just a reference. Eventually I'm going to delete this. So now this might help to zoom in a little bit, but right now I'm just going to kind of go around and do like the general shape of my face. Now if I just click around, I wanted to do this as an example. You see how I'm just clicking around? This is not going to create a very nice face shape, right? Because now we have all these straight lines. It's kind of jagged looking. So that's why your pen tool practice can come in handy here when you're doing your curves. So I'm going to go back here. Okay, so back. And I'm going to grab my pen tool. Okay. Now again, I'm going to kind of click and hold here as I'm going around. Click and hold based on the shape. Now straight lines, I can go ahead and just do a mark. Bend that one a little bit. So as I'm going along, I'm just paying attention to, is it a straight line or a curved line? If it's curved, then I curve it. If it's straight, then I make sure it's straight. You really want to try and follow your shape, the shape of your face as best as you can, because otherwise it won't look very much like you if you're not. And it's okay if you kind of go over your hairline because we're going to go back over that later on. I'm going to curve that a little bit. We're going to create lots of layers here. You have to have at least a minimum of 15. That looks pretty good. And so you're going to end up with probably more than that anyways. But the less you have, the more cartoony it is. And the more you have, the more realistic it is. So just an FYI. Okay, so there's my face. Now, this is the kind of project where we really have to name our layers. So I'm just going to double click on where it says shape 1, and that will let me rename it. So I'm going to call this face because it's just my face, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just hide this layer. So I'm going to click on the eye icon, And now I have to decide what I'm going to do next. Should I do my hair? Should I do like the knot in my head? Or I mean the headband. I think I'm going to do, let's do an eye. And this is where, again, your layers are going to come in handy here. So we're going to start with just the basic outline, like the white part of the eye. So I'm going to grab my eyedropper tool. We're going to select my white. Notice how, and I always find this interesting, just based on the image, this is the color of my eye, apparently, okay? It doesn't seem right. You usually probably want to select like bright white, right? But just because the photo is in a different lighting, we're gonna make that a little darker. I might bump it up just a tiny bit just because I don't want it to be too gray, but you'll see how this works. So I'm gonna go into the pen tool again, make sure I have that color selected. Again, I can always go in to the color selector and then just select it as I'm working too. And it will always keep your most recently used colors. All right, so here I'm just going to go around creating, oops, I want to curve that. Don't forget to curve when you're ready to do this. Let's go back and do this one a little better. Again, okay to go over a little bit if you need to. I'm going to be going over this anyways with like the eyelashes and stuff too. Okay, I'm going to hit enter on the keyboard too, just to make sure that's a complete shape. Okay, now I'm going to go over and do the other one as well. We're going to call this left eye. Now I'm going to do the other eye. I think I'll just keep that same tone there. Trying to follow along as best as I can. Okay, and this will be right eye. Now it's going to look really weird at first. Whoops, and I accidentally changed the color of my face layer by accident. Let me go back there and change that. It is that color. There we go. My bad. That's the other thing you have to be careful about. I'm glad I did that actually. Is you want to make sure, God, that's so scary. You want to make sure that whatever layer you're on, don't accidentally change the fill on that layer. So make sure you do like a new layer or click on your background when you're actually tracing. That's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so I have left eye, right eye. Let's focus on, I'm going to turn all of these off except for the left eye. I'm going to turn the opacity down on the left eye. We're going to try and make this eye look a little less spooky. And I'm going to grab my eyedropper tool here. I'm going to make sure I'm on the background layer when I do this. And I'm going to choose my eye color here. Let's turn that off. This is my eye color. I actually do have kind of blue-green eyes. It's not really showing that in the picker tool here, which is funny. Let's see here. I can get into, it's funny, like purple's coming up. Interesting. It's just the way the lighting is working, I think. That's fine. We could just do gray for now. Dark gray. Yeah, mine are definitely kind of a blue-green gray color. I'm going to grab my pen tool again. I'm on my background layer, and I'm going to create the iris of my eye here. The eyes are always the part, I think, that takes the most, most time because there's like more details. Excuse me. Okay, we're going to call this iris. And now I'm going to turn that layer off. We'll just do the pupil. So grab my pupil. Notice how I'm clicking on the background when I'm ready to do my next layer. So that way I don't accidentally change the color of a different layer. Excuse me. Just gonna tickle my throat. Okay, there is the pupil. I'm learning some anatomy here. Go back to my background layer, and now I'm going to do the little white highlight there. I call it white, but it's actually kind of blue. Probably because the reflection in my phone was blue. Whoop, there we go. Let's make it a little tiny circle shape. There we go. You could technically use the shape tool for that, but I'm just going to call this highlight left eye. I should also probably label this left pupil, because there's going to be a right pupil as well. Same with the left iris. All right, let's put it all together. Now I'm putting it all together and I'm like, wait, all my stuff is hiding, and it's just because it's out of order. So we need the iris to be under the pupil. We need the highlight to be over the pupil. Okay, and then I should be able to see my left eye underneath everything. So let's put that under there. Okay, that's looking good. I'm going to bump this opacity back up. We're getting there. It's still going to look really freaky. Are we ready? I'm going to zoom out. We're going to freak everyone out. All right, here we go. Ah, so spooky. Okay, but once you start putting it all together, we're going to bring face all the way down. So it's where order of your layers starts. It's going to start looking more like, oh, okay, a little more cartoon-like. I still need to go in and add like my eyelashes and stuff. Now, here is where you can have a little creative freedom. I want you to use the pen tool for the major features of your face, but if you want to go in and maybe use the brush tool for your eyelashes or eyebrows or something, or even your hair, if you'd like to kind of draw in your hair, you are allowed to do that. So I'm going to actually do that now with my eyelashes. I'm going to do that clicking above this one. We're going to do a new layer, this little plus sign, and I'm going to call this left eyelashes. Here's where you can be kind of artistic here. Or do some digital painting. All right, I still can't see everything here though, so I'm going to turn down the face. Actually, let's just turn the whole face layer off. Okay, I'm also going to turn off the left eye, I think. There we go. And here's where I will zoom in. Use my brush tool. I got to choose the brush that makes the most sense here. Probably just a general round brush. I'm going to just make it maybe a tiny bit soft. Make it much smaller. Make sure I'm on the right layer. Oh, it needs to be much smaller than that. Ooh, much smaller. Okay, here we go. So we're like right in here, and it's not super defined. Whoops. Make sure you use the right color. Grab your eyedropper tool. Here we go. It's not super defined, but I'm just going to kind of like brush that in. Wherever I see my eyelashes, I'll just kind of like put that in there. It's kind of a dark line there. Again, I'm on the left eyelashes layer that I just made. I'll also go ahead and draw these ones. So these ones are a little bit lighter down here. A little more on the brown side. They really blend in too. It's kind of this like line through here. You don't have to put in like every single little detail, but the more you put in, the more realistic it's going to look. So it's up to you how detailed you want it to be. Here's where you can also turn on that left eye again, so you can kind of get a sense. Like I just drew in like a little, I don't know what you call that, little doohickey on the inside of your eye. But now it's starting to look a little more like, oh, okay, like there's eyelashes, there's like the line along my eyes. Go back to that and just kind of touch that up a little bit. And here's where you can also have a lot of fun with the drawing tablet when you use the tablet. There we go. That's better. You can also increase the smoothing here, and when you use the tablet, go into window brush settings and then shape dynamics, and here is where you can control the pen pressure on the drawing tablet. So you just change all of these to pen pressure, and that will allow you to do that. I am currently not in a place where I have a drawing tablet, so I'm just using my mouse right now, so that's why you're hearing clicking. So let's zoom back out. Let's see if this eyeball looks a little less scary. Oh yeah, that's more like me. All right, we'll turn on the face. Awesome. Okay, so I've done an eyeball, I've done my whole left eye, I've done my face, and now I would move on to my next eye. Now, before I do that, I am going to do my nose. And for my nose, instead of like drawing an outline around like the entire nose, you know, okay, I'm not gonna make it look like that, but you get the idea. I'm not gonna draw like an entire outline. I'm just gonna kind of do like the bottom line of my nose. Okay, I'm gonna show you how to do that. I'm gonna grab my pen tool, and we're gonna turn off fill. I'm going to turn off fill, and I'm going to turn on stroke. Now I'm going to decide the color for the bottom of my nose. We're going to go kind of like this darker pinkish color, I guess. We'll try that. Okay, I'm going to go to my stroke and choose that color. Here is where I have to kind of see how big that stroke is, and that's really big. So we're going to make that smaller. Drop that down. Here we go. Let's click around. Sorry about that. I just had to like pause that. So here is the nose. I just did that like one line here. So I didn't actually like connect it. So there is the stroke. It doesn't have a fill, and I will just call this nose. Now I kind of got off on the side here. I feel like I made it a little too wide, so my nose looks a little big, but as an example, at least you can kind of get an idea of what this looks like. So there's like the bottom of my nose. I could add more definition here if I wanted to add like a line here, but we don't want it to be like super defined because it's flat. We're not really worried about value right now. We are literally just doing kind of a flat cartoon version of ourselves, like a caricature, if you think of it that way. So that would work for the nose. From here, you just keep deciding what you're going to do next by turning on and off your layers. Do your mouth, you could do the eyebrows, the hair, what you're wearing in your hair, and then of course clothing. If you do decide to eliminate, part of the image or something, just make sure then you crop it. So I'm not going to do Century High School or anything like that. I'm not going to outline that. You can if you want. I might include the I voted sticker because I think that's kind of fun. But I'm not going to include my entire outfit. I am going to include my headband though, because I think that'll be fun. Eventually, you're going to get to a point where you've pretty much covered all of the main elements of your portrait, and you're going to delete this background layer, and I'm just going to unlock that, and then I can press on this trash can down here to delete. I'm just going to show this as an example. And then you're going to put in a new layer, all right? Put in a new layer, so there's layer 1, and you can fill this in with your paint bucket, any color you want, like let's say you just want red or, whatever color you want. You can click and drag here, choose your colors, or you can also do, if I right click on the paint bucket, I'll go to the gradient tool. You can also do a gradient. So if you haven't done a gradient before, I highly recommend trying out a gradient. To put a gradient in, you actually have to click and drag, and as you click and drag, you'll notice the gradient can change. There are lots of preset gradients as part of Photoshop, so these are all presets. You can do a custom gradient simply by going to your 2 colors that are selected here. So I could just say, okay, I want these 2 colors in my gradient. I go all the way up here, go to basics, and I'm going to choose that basic one. That's just kind of like the default. And then let's say I want to change this color to blue, and I want it to be blue fading to purple. Okay, there's my custom gradient. I can also make that gradient radial. So that's like kind of focusing like a circle. There's another style of gradient with an angle. There's a gradient to kind of look like a cylinder. There's another gradient style. So any solid color or any gradient can go in the background of your selfie portrait. You just have to make sure you have your eyes and everything else put together here. Mine obviously is not quite done yet. As you're working on this, it's super important to save this repeatedly. Go into File, Save As, and whenever you save it you should save it on your computer. Give it a name. So we'll just call it like cartoon, or you can call it cartoon selfie or whatever. Make sure Photoshop is selected, PSD, and then I highly, highly recommend saving this somewhere different than your downloads in case they accidentally wipe your downloads. Like tech support sometimes will wipe downloads, especially if you have any like tech issues. So if you go into like documents or pictures, any of those, you can actually right click in that space and do new folder. Call this like graphic design. If you've already done this, great, but if you haven't, I highly recommend doing this. So, having a folder, I already have a folder named graphic design, but going into that folder, double clicking, and then making sure you save it. Click OK. Don't forget to click OK. A lot of students forget that, and then they're wondering why their file doesn't open. And then every time you open this, or every time you save it, go to File, Save As. So File, Save As, not File, Save. And add a number to the end. So like next time, add a 1, and then maybe tomorrow when I work on this, I'll add a 2, and then the next day I'll add a 3. That way you'll always have a previous version to go back to, and by saving it in that folder, you're going to have a place where it's going to be. If you save it in the downloads, again, things get wiped all the time. You could lose your work, and then you'd have to start all over. Another pro tip is going to okay, I don't know what happened there. All right, another pro tip is to go to your drive. Screencast by stuff, I swear. All right, and do new file upload, and just uploading this to your drive. I'm gonna go into my folder here. It was graphic design 1. I'm gonna upload that cartoon selfie. Do this like once a day. Upload it to your Google Drive. Then for sure your work is gonna be safe, because you can go on any computer in this school, or your phone even. Go to your file, find it, it's there, it's ready for you to keep editing and working with in whatever program, Photoshop or Photopea. If you had to work on it at home, you could do this in Photopea. Just letting you know, okay? So that's as far as I'm going to go for today. I just wanted to kind of give you a basic outline of what we're doing and how we're going to do it. And in the end, you'll have an awesome cartoon selfie of yourself, which I think is a lot of fun, and you can use it for your profile picture or whatever. Down the line, you'll also have a chance to animate it if you'd like to. So just keep that in the back of your mind as you're working, and I hope you have a lot of fun with it.